Welcome to Light Warrior Radio, where our mission is to empower sensitive souls to harness their superpowers and shine their light, so together we can co-create heaven on earth. I'm your host, Dr. Karen Kanji, author of the #1 best-selling book, Sensitivity is Your Superpower, and founder of the Academy of Light Medicine and the Topican Healing Method. Thank you for joining me.
Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm super excited today on Light Warrior Radio to interview my friend and colleague, Dr. Bradley Nelson. And he probably doesn't need an introduction because he's super famous. He has such amazing, super programs. However, I will do the formal intro in case you are new to my channel and you have not met Dr. Brad yet. And we're going to be talking about his newest book, Releasing the Heart Code. But before that, let me share a little bit about Dr. Brad. He's a holistic chiropractic physician, and he's one of the world's foremost experts on natural methods of achieving wellness. He is the creator of the Emotion Code. That's how I got started with Dr. Brad, the Body Code and the Belief Code, and the CEO of Discover Healing. His best-selling books include the Emotion Code and the Body Code, and his newest book, the Heart Code, is what we're going to talk about today. And it is available for ordering with special gifts at drbradleynelson.com, depending on when you're listening to the show, but check it out at drbradleynelson.com. Dr. Brad, welcome to Light Warrior Radio again.
Hey, well, Dr. Karen, it's great to be back on your show, or to be on your show. Thank you. You and I go way back, right?
Way back.
We met at the Body Code seminar in 2013 in Midway, Utah.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that so clear. First of all, it's like I met almost all your family members, which was amazing. Because they're all part of your business. I'm like, whoa, this is so cool, right?
And make them all work for us.
They're just fantastic. It was so great to meet them all, or almost all. And I remember I cried, I think. Well, of course, my people know that I cry all the time in a good way. Cry of happy tears. I think I was on stage sharing with you my very first #1 best-selling book, The Guide to Healing Chronic Pain. And I said, look, when I removed my heart wall, I at first didn't know if anything was going to happen, like based on the testimonials. I was like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen. And then I kind of forgot about it, to be honest. And then somewhere down the line, I just wrote this book, published it. It became a #1 bestseller. And then when you ask for people to, did they have a story? And I thought, do I have a story? And I went, oh my gosh, I published that. And I was like, I have to give that book to Dr. Brad. So that was super, super cool. So Dr. Brad, share with us, what has inspired you to do this body of work?
Well, what has inspired me to do all of this? Well, when I was in practice, I was really motivated by, first of all, by figuring out what was really wrong with my patients, and it's interesting because, see, I was a doctor of chiropractic, and so that meant I didn't have a license to prescribe drugs to suppress people's symptoms, right? And I didn't have a license to remove people's troublesome organs and things, and so I was left with this dilemma of having to figure out what was really wrong with people if I wanted to really help them in a profound way. And so that was one thing. As this got easier, uh, and that was interesting too, because as time went on, and of course, as you know, I was a computer programmer back in the early 80s. And so when I became a doctor, it began to dawn on me that there was a subconscious mind that, in everybody, that is actually a computer that can be queried. We can ask questions and get answers. And that was really, that was such a fundamentally important thing, because otherwise, I mean, people, we don't know when we have symptoms. The vast majority of people have no idea really why they're having symptoms, why they're having pain here or there, or why they're diagnosed with some problem. They don't have any idea. But symptoms are really just as you know, the subconscious mind trying to communicate with us, right? And so yeah, really what this work is all about is, and the reason why we use the word code, right, in all the books, the emotion code, the body code, the heart code. The reason why we use that word is because there is a code in the body, and it is the body's language. And I always think of the Rosetta Stone, right, that they discovered that finally, because it was this obelisk, kind of a pillar thing, and it had Greek on one side and Egyptian on the other side, and I don't know, probably a couple of other languages I don't remember now, but they were able to then decipher Egyptian, using that Rosetta Stone. And so the heart code, emotion code, body code, belief code, they're really all about communicating with that internal computer. And I think that's the most important thing that we can do is learn this language, the language of the inner body. And so so those were things that were part of it. And then once once I began to realize how simple this can be, uh, then I began to be consumed with this desire to teach this to people. So I started teaching seminars my first seminar was in July of 1998. And I remember it was in San Diego at the Handlery Hotel. And I remember I was on my way there and I was going to teach a seminar with my brother, who was also a chiropractor. And we collaborated a lot. And I was really worried because I said, look, I remember this so distinctly. We were on our way and my brother was driving. And I said, Bruce, I said, we're going to teach these people everything we know in like an hour. And then what are we going to do for 2 days? I was really worried. And he said, oh, don't worry, it'll be okay. And actually, yeah, it worked out. So the other side of this really is the spiritual side. And when I was 15 years old, I had a really profound spiritual experience, and I learned that God is real and that He's our Father, and so um, He loves us beyond our ability to really understand, and He's got our backs, but He doesn't push us. He just allows us to have our experiences, right? And so that was part of this too. And it was really a very profound answer to prayer that got me into the healing arts in the first place. So then when I was in practice and I'm seeing patients all the time, I developed this habit of asking for help with each person that I saw, right? And it was just a momentary pause as far as they were concerned. They didn't know that I was praying for them, but I was. Just a momentary pause. But in response to that asking, there were times when information would just flood in about how to help this person, how to look at this, how to perceive what's happening, where to how this is supposed to work. And it was really just such an amazing thing. I have to tell you, I'm so grateful for the years that I spent in practice working with people. I loved my patients, and but it was like this laboratory really, where I was just trying to help them and trying to figure out what was really going on, and that's really where all of this has come from. And so, and again, like I said, the fascinating thing was that as time went on, rather than get more complicated, it actually became simpler, and it was like pieces of the puzzle were kind of all fitting together. And so now we've got this body of work, the emotion code about getting rid of all your emotional baggage, and the body code, which is how to find practically anything else that's going on in the body. And then the heart code. And let me explain the heart code, really what in this book, The Emotion Code, which came out in June or July of 2007, the same time that the first iPhone shipped. Okay.
Ah,
To, give you a time reference. Um, there's a chapter in here called The Walls Around Our Hearts. And when I published this book, my wife and I talked about it, and we realized, eventually we're going to have another book just about this phenomenon that goes on with the heart called the heart wall. And so that's what this book is really all about.
mm,
Um, we talk about the heart wall in the emotion code book and in the body code book, but this book is really designed to shine a really bright light on this phenomenon again and really bring it to the forefront at a time when we really need to. And I think it's all in God's perfect timing. The hardest thing about writing this book actually was, um, I mean, when I wrote the emotion code book the first time, the only stories I had were my own. But in writing this book, the hardest thing was going through the 10,000 plus stories people had sent in to figure out which ones we
wow.
were going to put in here. That was the hardest thing.
Wow, that is amazing. And I remember that story. And if you don't mind, can you repeat that story about Jean and how you figured this out?
Oh,
this
absolutely.
heart wall.
Yeah. Well, let me first of all, let me explain some interesting things about the heart.
Mm.
Um, Anciently, every ancient society that I've looked at, all had very interesting beliefs about the heart. They, in essence, believed that the heart was the seat of the soul, the source of love, the source of creativity, the source of romance. The heart, they believe, was the core of our being, and so on. And so, in fact, for example, if you look at the Bible, the word heart is mentioned almost 1,000 times in verses like, as a man thinks in his heart, so he will be, right? Well, how do you think with your heart? Well, somewhere around 100 years ago, maybe a little earlier than that, I think, they discovered all this gray matter and white matter in the heart, brain tissue in the heart. But it wasn't until 1991 that they really figured out that that gray matter and white matter in the heart is a completely separate brain from the brain that is in your head. And that brain in your heart, uh, it's recording your true affinities, the things you really love, the things you really care about. Isn't that interesting? So the Bible
Mm.
talks about it. It talks about how, there's a verse that says, God doesn't look on the outward appearance of people. He looks on the heart, right? The
Mm.
ancient Egyptians believed that when you die, um, you go through a ceremony on the other side where your heart is weighed on a
Oh, right.
scale
Yeah.
against a feather, right? And if your heart is lighter than a feather, indicating, you were a lighthearted person, you made good choices, you had a lot of love, then it's going to work out well for you. But if not, then you get to be devoured by this monstrous god Amit. So it's really interesting. That's what they believed. And so, yeah, and they're, and the Chinese had beliefs, and the Indians had, Ayurvedic type medicine. Everybody had their own beliefs about the heart,
Mhm.
and so sometimes we feel like our heart is breaking, right?
Mm.
And I can remember, a few times in my life where I've had that sensation, like, like there's something pressing on my chest, maybe like I'm choking a little, like I can't breathe. When you are going through something really difficult emotionally, if someone's really hurting you or you're deep in grief, you can feel that physical sensation. Well, the ancient peoples were no different than us, and so they observed that too. They also observed, undoubtedly, the same kind of thing that we perceive today. If you're really feeling, oh gosh, you're really just feeling a lot of love for somebody, or if someone is maybe performing like beyond their natural ability and they're really truly, for example, singing truly from their heart, inevitably your heart is going to resonate with theirs, right? And you're going to feel it. And if you look around at the audience, you'll see people have their hands over their heart, tears in their eyes, right? Well, the
Yeah.
ancients, they observed those things too. So that's where all these old ideas came from. Well, sometimes we develop emotional baggage, right? And emotional baggage, everything is energy. Tesla said, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And so emotions that we experience are also energy. Everything is energy, frequency, and vibration. He was right. So sometimes when we feel an emotion, sometimes it's really intense and doesn't get processed. Sometimes an emotion comes up and we bury it
Mm.
because we don't want to go there. Or
Yep.
sometimes an emotion comes up that maybe isn't that big of a deal, but we make it really intense by choice. And in those circumstances, that emotional energy can become trapped in the body. And we call those trapped emotions. That's what the Emotion Code book is about. But what happened with my wife and I, now that I've kind of set the stage for all this, in 1998, uh, one morning she woke me up and told me that she had a dream. And
Mm.
in the dream were some symbols. And she asked me if I would help her to figure out what the dream meant. And so as I was trying to do this, all of a sudden I had one of the craziest experiences I've ever had in my whole life, where we were in a hotel and suddenly the hotel room is gone, and I'm seeing instead this unbelievably beautiful hardwood floor in front of me. And it was a waking vision. And this was so wild. And I mean, I don't take drugs of any kind. So it was not about that at all. It was actually something that came from up above. And as I'm seeing this unbelievably beautiful floor, I have this understanding that comes into my mind that my wife's heart is underneath this floor.
Mm.
And I had absolutely no idea what this meant. And I told Jean what I was seeing and understanding. She had no idea either. But I knew that somehow, this had to do with her. And I knew that we could ask questions of her subconscious mind and get answers because we all have a computer inside of us. And I used to be a computer programmer. So I started asking questions, right? And muscle testing, And what I found was that that her heart was underneath this hardwood floor, and the hardwood floor really was a representation of um, this wall that had been put up around her heart that consisted of the energy of some of her emotional baggage, her trapped emotions. So I asked if we could remove this, and her subconscious mind said, "Yeah, we could start removing it." It took us about 2 weeks to clear that very, very first heart wall. And I don't know if this phenomenon has been known in other times and other places throughout history. I imagine that it probably has. I never in my wildest dreams would have imagined that this kind of thing goes on, but it's very real. Well, what we found was, um, first of all, she was born into a very volatile family. Her dad was kind of a rageaholic. He was
Mm.
always yelling, and nobody ever knew who he was going to blow up at, or for what, or when. And it was just very unsafe. So by the time she was about
Right.
2 years old, she started building a wall around her heart to protect her heart from being broken. Right.
Yeah.
And so it took us about 2 weeks. We'd clear an emotion, and then she might have to take a couple of days. And the price that she was paying for having this wall around her heart was she battled with depression and anxiety. She always felt, uh, what would you say, kind of isolated, even
Mm.
with friends, women that she had known since she was a child. She never really felt like she totally belonged, like she was kind of the odd person out, like she was kind of expendable, right?
Mm.
And um, and so all of a sudden, when that last emotion was gone, um, suddenly all of that began to shift for her, and it was really an amazing thing. And of course, there are so many other great stories in the hard code book. There are actually chapters, five different chapters about uh, these different kind of effects, health stories.
Mm.
When I was in practice, during the last 10 years, I practiced for about 18 years. And during the last 10 years, most of the people that I was working with had been told there was really no hope for them at all in Western medicine, right? That they were, going to have this problem, whatever it was, until they died. So they would come to me as a last resort. And what I found with all these people was that they all seemed to have a heart wall. Now, about
Mm.
93% of people have a heart wall anyway,
Right.
because it is by far the norm instead of the exception. But anyway, I had an initial exam that I did with everybody. And what I would do is I would test using muscle testing. I would test the balance of all the organs, all the glands, the lungs, the heart, the liver, gallbladder. I test all the organs, all the glands. I test all the meridians and all the chakras. It was not unusual to find uh, patients with every organ and every gland out of balance, right? And multiple chakras and meridians and so on. Sometimes with these people, what I would do is just one thing. I would just clear their heart wall. So I do 2 or 3 sessions, clear their heart wall, and then I would immediately redo that initial examination.
Mm.
And every time I did that, inevitably, 80% of all those organs and glands would be turned back on, chakras, meridians. I found it was the single most powerful thing that I could do to help these patients who'd been told there was no hope for them. Think about that.
Right.
So there are stories in here. There's a whole chapter about health stories. The next chapter is abundance stories. And this is really interesting because um, when you have a heart wall, it interferes with your ability to really create abundance and to create the life that you're capable of. I believe that within every single human heart lies this perfect blueprint of what your perfect life can actually be, right? And
Mm.
when you have a wall around your heart, it's just so much more difficult to follow your heart, which is great advice,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But if you got a heart wall, you're kind of handicapped. So there are lots of stories about abundance in there. Um, like the lady that had been trying to sell her house for a year, got her heart wall cleared, and then sold it like the next day. Crazy things.
That's amazing.
Chapter 9, the stories of freedom and renewal. And then chapter 10 is love stories. And then chapter 11 is animal stories because animals get heart walls too. I think my
Mm.
favorite chapter probably is the love stories. It's just so fun. Um, because you see, like just like the ancients believed, the heart is the seat of love and romance, right? When you fall in love with somebody, you don't use this brain, it happens in your heart, right? It's a heart
Mm.
brain kind of thing. It's amazing. And I believe that Christ and all the great teachers throughout history have really all been trying to get us to live from our heart, right?
Mm.
When you're living from your heart, you're coming from a place of unconditional love, right? And that I think is profound, and that's what's going to really change the world as we.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, here we are in 2025, and all you have to do is turn on the news for 5 minutes, and you're going to hear that, oh, planet Earth, yeah, we're still using war. Yeah, it's a stupid thing, but we're still using it. Oh, yeah, we think it's great, right?
Boy, it really works. Not.
Oh, it really works. Yeah. We're still using war to settle differences, and as a political extension. And I mean, just so ridiculous, right? So insane. I mean, absolutely insane. But that's because, 93% of people in the world are dealing with they're dealing with their life using only this brain, which doesn't feel anything.
Mm.
This brain feels nothing. This is where we feel. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why, if someone's really hurting you, you don't get a headache, you get a heartache, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, so anyway, what happens is we tend to build a wall around that heart when we feel like our heart's going to break. And that wall is made of layers of your emotional baggage. So, anyway, yeah, that's a long kind of answer to your question. Sorry.
No, that's great. I remember that, and when I first years and years ago tested my heart wall, I was rather appalled that mine was several miles thick, and I'm like, seriously?
Oh, yeah.
Um, I don't know. What's the record?
The record, the record was 1 billion miles.
Okay, okay, yeah, that's more than what I had.
Yeah. And it was,
Wow, wow.
yeah, it was a family member. I can't remember exactly who it was
Oh,
now.
okay.
But yeah, the subconscious mind, it can choose anything,
True. Mm.
and it'll always choose some kind of symbolic material.
Mm.
So yeah, and in the first version of the emotion code, we talked quite a bit about that, explained, to people how they can figure out what that is. And then in the emotion code, we kind of left it out from the hardcover because people seem to get hung up on it, trying to figure out what the wall was made out of.
Oh, okay, okay.
Because you don't really need to know.
Right. Don't need to know. I was just curious.
It's just a curious
Yeah.
thing. But now in the heart code, we explain it again, how people can figure it out. And it is kind of fun, right? But when I was in practice, my policy really was I didn't really figure it out because I thought, man, I'm so far out on a limb here already. If I tell people, hey, you have a wall around your heart, it's made out of whipped cream and there's sprinkles on it. They're gonna come and take me
I was
away.
gonna say cotton candy, so I was close. Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. And then the layers. Talk a little bit about for those who aren't, already familiar with the emotion code. Talk about these layers, and then why is it that the heart wall may take hours, days, weeks to so-called erase? Are there any side effects to that?
Well, yeah. So basically, what happens is that the heart wall consists of emotions that are trapped in the body, emotional energies that have now been just repurposed into this wall around the heart. And if you go through something new, you bury an emotion, it might immediately form into and add another layer, right? Um, let me tell you a story. Actually, I love stories,
Mm,
and because I think they're very illustrative. There was a woman that brought her son in to see us. He was 9 years old, and she said that what had happened was the first thing she noticed that there was something that wasn't right with him. Uh, was that he wouldn't hand in his homework, even if he did it, and sometimes he just wouldn't do it. And sometimes she'd come into his room at night and he'd be on the floor, and she'd say, "What are you doing on the floor?" And he'd say, "I don't deserve to be in a bed." And she would think, "Well, what? What does that even mean? What is going on?" One day she paid a surprise visit to her son's school classroom. Remember, he's 9 years old, only to find his teacher berating him for being pathetic. She couldn't get anything out of him. And what was interesting was he had this kind of a grin, really
mhm,
kind of more of a grimace, really, like
mm.
pasted on all of his waking hours. He just it was like this.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so she just had no idea what was going on with him. She took him to see a psychiatrist and a psychologist, and she was told that he couldn't be helped. In fact, she was told that he was clinically depressed at 9 years old, but that he couldn't be helped because he wouldn't admit that he was depressed. Well, I mean, he was 9 years old. So he doesn't even know what depressed means, right? Um, but he knows he's supposed to be happy, so he's got this, you know,
Yeah.
this fake grin pasted on. Anyway, so his mom heard about the heart wall and how removing it can be transformative for depression. So she decided she'd give it a try. So she brought him to see us, my wife and I, and we tested him and found that he had a heart wall, sure enough. And this heart wall was made up of a number of emotions. And I think there were 3 or 4 emotions there. And each one of these had to do with um, a traumatic, tragic event that had happened in their family. One of
Mhm,
the cousins was run over by a hayride
mm,
tractor. He fell off the hay wagon and was killed. A couple of cousins were killed in a car wreck. So we cleared those emotions, and we got to the very last emotion, which was the one that had started this whole thing. And what had happened was he was with his big sister. It was a family reunion at a lake in California, and there were all these other relatives there. And they were out on a dock with this other little boy who was also 5 years old. He was 5 at the time, and this other little boy was a cousin of theirs, kind of his best friend at the time. And his big sister was trying to teach this little boy how to swim, and there was no adult supervision around, and so he disappeared under the dock. And I don't know, sometime later, half an hour, 45 minutes later, the divers retrieved his body,
mm.
and he was there and his sister was there, and they pulled this little boy out, and he's just, of course, long dead and blue. And the overwhelming guilt that his sister was feeling, I mean, the crushing weight of guilt
Yeah.
was so powerful, it became absorbed into his body and immediately
Oh.
formed into a wall, or his heart was going to break for his sister, and also because he just lost his little best friend. So we cleared
Mm,
that emotion, and that was it for the heart wall. The heart wall was gone. His mom took him home for the next couple of days. He was kind of lying around lethargic, and he was processing, the release
mm,
of that. She was thinking it didn't work. But then on the morning of the third day after we worked on him, he got himself up ready to go, got his lunchbox, everything, came downstairs and he said, "Mom, I can go back to school. I'm a happy pappy." That was a quote. And he went into the program for advanced kids because he was so smart and all of his learning disabilities were gone, etc. And he is now 36, I think. And last I
wow.
knew, he had a couple kids. So,
Wow.
but his
Yeah,
mom said
that
he wouldn't have survived because he was so
yeah.
depressed. Think about that.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, that's amazing. Oh my gosh, we have a lot of hearts going on here right now on Zoom
yeah, it was fun.
for that story. That is amazing. And you made a point. earlier that like some people won't know, we sometimes assume that all of the emotions that we're feeling is ours. So tell us about absorbed or inherited emotions.
Right. Okay. Well, so here's what happens to us um, at conception, and how I found this actually was just in practice, trying to track down a trapped emotion and asking when it had occurred, and finding out, well, it occurred prior to birth, and then finding out, oh, this one actually came from your mom or your dad. So at conception, we sometimes receive emotional energy from mom or dad that they might have received from their mom or dad, and these can go back sometimes, for many generations. And it's a fascinating thing. Uh, and a heart wall can be made up also partly or sometimes wholly by inherited emotions. Now, so we receive those emotions at conception. It's a
Mm,
quantum thing. Scientists know that animals somehow will pass down um, information to their posterity about trauma that has happened to them. They don't know
mm,
how it's happening. They're looking at the DNA under a microscope, trying to figure it out, but it's a quantum phenomenon and it's inherited emotions. Well, so we can absorb emotions really at any time. Okay. So in other words, if somebody else is feeling an intense emotion, like that little boy, okay, his sister was feeling that intense emotion of grief, um, or guilt rather, that became incorporated into his body. And so we can absorb emotional energy from other people, yes. And then suddenly now it belongs to us. It's
mm,
our emotion. They may or may not have trapped it. But yeah, that's a category of trapped emotions, and they're definitely different. But
And Dr.
yeah.
Brad, it's just speaking a little bit more about the difference. So when we clear our bodies of ancestral emotions, if you will, does that clear them? And then if we clear absorbed emotions, does it clear the other person or just ourselves?
When you have well, when there's an absorbed trapped emotion, um, and you clear it from yourself, it doesn't really clear it from the other person. They may or may not have trapped it. However,
Ah,
there's another category of trapped emotions that we call shared trapped emotions that we explain in the body code. And that's where two people are feeling the same emotion at the same time. They develop a trapped emotion that is shared between them. Sometimes it's multiple people. It might be a
mm,
whole entire village or a whole family or three or four people, you know. Um, so when you clear that emotion from one person, it clears from all of them. And the reason why is because it's really only one energy. It's a weird thing. So you might have a
mm.
whole family that is sharing one emotion. If you clear it from any of them, it clears from all of them. And that's one of the weird things about quantum physics. Um, in fact, I think it was Richard Feynman said quantum physics is not only is not only weird, it's weirder than you can even imagine, really, or you know, and it really is. Let me share a cool story with you about inherited trapped emotions. It'll help to illustrate this one. I was at an event one time, and I had about 300 people in the audience, and I asked for a volunteer, somebody that was really in pain. So this lady hobbles up to the stage, and she's got pain. It's a level 9 out of 10 in her hip, right hip, and she's limping and everything. And she says it's been going on for a year. She's seen a doctor or two. They haven't been able to help her, and it's just a weird thing. So anyway, I tested her. Found one thing, cleared it, brought the pain from a 9 to a 4. And the next thing that I found was that she had an inherited trapped emotion. And the emotion was fear. And I'm getting this through muscle testing her, right? Yes, no, getting answers from her subconscious mind, which knows all this stuff. And so it went back um, 11 generations, and on her father's side, and father got it from father, got it from father, got it from father. And so I actually muscle tested her. Now, I've never seen any of these spirits, but I asked her subconscious mind. I said, okay, are these spirits here with us? Yeah. These ancestors. All right. Where are they? Are they floating out, over the audience? No. Are they sitting out there on people's laps? No. Are they up here on the stage with us? Yes. They always are. They're always on the stage because they always want to be around, their descendant, right? They love that person, and they're there also because they're about to have something released on them. So, so that was cool. I released it from her, and the pain was completely gone. So she's dancing around on the stage, and then she goes back and sits down. I finished my talk, and and then I went back out to this booth where our staff was. And right after I got there, this woman comes up to me and she says, Dr. Nelson, she said, I want you to know something. She said, I'm one of those people that has the ability to see spirits. And some people have that gift, She said, it's kind of been a blessing, kind of been a curse, but I've had this all my life. She said, I just wanted you to know I was in your class. And when you were describing those grandfathers, she said, I saw them. I just wanted you to know they were there, just like you said. But she said, there's something else going on that I don't know that you're aware of. She said, what I saw was surrounding the stage were at least 200 spirits. And it came to me who they were. They were the yet to be born descendants of this woman that were there rejoicing that they were not going to have to take on this woman's crippling emotional baggage, when they came into the world. And I just thought, oh wow, that's cool. Because I don't, I've never really seen these things. I did see an entity one time, but anyway, yeah, kind of fun. Oh, I can't hear you.
I don't know how
There
I
you go.
did that. Um, You were the first one who introduced the idea of entities as causing or contributing to someone's illness or dis-ease. And I remember after that Utah class where, 2.0, right? You're finally releasing this even more woo-woo stuff. And
Yeah.
I'm like leaning in. I'm like, what? This is crazy cool, right? And I'm sure there are other people in class going, oh my God. You're like, I wish I didn't know that. So we went, then I went through all that, more and more like understanding that because I guess I think I was built for that, right? I was made for that. So you introduced that to me. So thank you so
Yeah.
much
Yeah,
for that
absolutely. I mean,
awareness.
it is what it is, right? It's the
Yeah.
reality of our existence. They definitely are around. If you believe in angels, then you have to believe in, the other end of that stick, right? Which is the, entities that are, on the dark, they're on the lower vibrational end of that
Lower
scale.
vibrational
Yeah.
spectrum. Yeah. Dr. Brad, I don't know if I told you this story, but it was so interesting. I think it was a Hartwell story I had at some point, early in my emotion code days. I had a dream, and the dream, it just came up yesterday, actually, because I was doing some dream work. But I had a dream about zombies, and the zombies were in the hospital. So,
Uh-huh.
having, been a medical doctor, been in the hospital, I sometimes do have dreams about being in the hospital. Usually
Yeah.
not great dreams. But anyway, so so I'm being chased. We are being chased, not you, but like a bunch of us are getting chased by zombies, right? And we
Yeah.
escape into this room, and I thought to myself, how are we going to escape this? So I end up deciding that I'm going to fight. Like I pick up something, I don't know, a baton or some medical equipment, and I'm going to turn around and fight. And I do, and then I wake up. Right, the zombies come in, and I wake up. Right. So the funny thing is I was like checking my emotions and things like that, like pretty much all the time since starting the emotion code. And I got a trapped emotion of terror from the
Sure.
dream. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
man, that's
I
not
know.
fair.
Yeah, it
It's
can
my
happen.
dream.
Yeah. I had a patient once that had night terrors. She
Oh,
had broken so many bones in her body because they were so extreme. Night terrors are not like
wow.
nightmares. I mean, they're like, nightmares on steroids. And about 4 or 5 times um, every week, she would wake up her whole family, screaming, having a night terror. And I mean, she'd broken her collarbone, fractured her skull, broken
Oh my
ribs.
gosh.
And so I tested her, and what it was that the same exact thing. When
Hmm.
she was a child, she had this recurring nightmare for a while, and that then went away. But when she was having that recurring nightmare that was really, really terrifying, she developed this trapped emotion. And yeah, that
Wow.
was it.
That is just fascinating. My other
Even
funny
when you're
story, not so
sleeping.
funny. was when I first started doing the heart wall, and of course mine was miles thick, and so much of it, I would say at least 80% was inherited emotions. And I thought, oh,
Mhm.
this is going to help my family. So I'm there and I'm a little sleepy, after releasing all these different emotions over a couple of days. And I thought to myself, I'll check in with my parents, see how they're feeling, because I know they might feel something as well. They were in Hong Kong. And I said, "Hey, mom, I just released all this ancestral trapped emotions from us. How are you feeling?" She goes, "I'm depressed." Now she has that tendency, but I think I didn't think about me being able to tolerate that much energy work for an hour, 2 hours, even at a time. But my parents weren't used to it, so they had one day where they were just like down in the dumps. It was probably like a detox, and then they were fine. But it was like, oops, note to self: don't do that many inherited trapped emotions at once.
Yeah, we don't usually recommend you do release more than like 8 to 12 because it can be a
Yeah,
little much.
learn that the hard way. Um,
Yeah.
all right, so Dr. Brad, we have our beautiful VIPs here who are here with maybe some questions. So if you're live with us, the live audience, you can go ahead and put them in the chat, or you can even raise your hand and ask Dr. Brad a question. In the meantime, I
Yeah.
do want to share with you there are some links that we shared in the show notes, as well as if you're live with us in the chat. And I want to share with you, and Dr. Brad, you can definitely walk us through this. So this is drbradleynelson.com here. Tell us about how to best get the book and the goodies.
Oh, right. Well, so here's the thing. The hard code book comes out December 2nd, right? Um, the books have already been printed December 2nd. You can go on Amazon, you can go in Barnes and Noble, you can pre-order the books. However, if you go to this site, drbradleynelson.com, you can actually pre-order books and also get special gifts. So yeah, let's see. If you want to click on, maybe go back up and click where
Okay.
it says pre-order now with special gifts. There you
Okay.
go.
Aha.
Okay, cool. So if you scroll down, and I'm not sure why it looks that way, but anyway, if you scroll down a little bit, um, there we go. We have some different opportunities. So if you order one book anywhere from like 1 to 4 books, you get the the forward by Tony Robbins, the first chapter of the book with your pre-order. But you also now get the whole entire book as an ebook that you can start reading right away. So you don't have to wait. You get that right away. And then I'll be
Nice.
doing an exclusive live Heart Code webinar. It's a 60-minute webinar we'll be doing this month. Okay. And the time and date on that, they haven't quite announced that yet. Level 2, if you buy 5 books from 5 to 49, you get everything you get in level 1, but you also get a 30-minute heart code session with one of our certified practitioners. Okay. And of course, this work is done at a distance as well as live and in person. So you don't have to even travel. You can just stay at home. And that is also transferable and can be gifted. Now, level 3 is our team transformation level. What we're trying to do, really, we have a goal to open 1 million hearts. We believe that this work is fundamental to the transformation of this world into a world that is that's coming, that's going to be operated by unconditional love. And I believe the earth is in labor right now because
Well
this
said.
new world is coming and
Yeah, well
it's
said.
trying to get there, just like labor. So if you buy anywhere from 50 to 149 books, you get everything you get in levels 1 and 2. You get a free intro immersion path course, um, personal growth digital journal, guided meditation audio tracks. You get a private one-on-one call with a healing path coach, and you get 5 30-minute heart wall energy healing sessions. Now the heart wall will probably be gone by session 2 or 3, but you can use those sessions for other things. And those are also
Mm,
transferable and can be gifted.
yeah.
Level 4, you want to buy 150 books up to 999. You get all the things we've talked about before, plus 60-minute virtual workshop just for you or for your team or your organization. Your logo goes on our Discovery Healing Partner Healing Heart Code page, and you get 10 30-minute sessions that you can gift or transfer. And then level 5 is my favorite because it's called the Fly with Brad. I'm a pilot, and we have our own company airplane. And so you buy 1,000 books. We take you on a stunning VIP private flight for 3 people, um, over the Grand Canyon, Bryce Canyon, Lake Powell, and Zion National Parks. A spectacular flight. And yeah, so
Awesome.
you'd come to St. George, Utah, and you get a full, also with this in a full day in person or virtual training led by me, designed specifically for your team or your organization's needs. And you also get a personal 1 hour energy healing session with me. And plus,
Ooh,
yeah, and really the great thing about this though is that uh, it's going to help us get the word out more about this. In fact, guess what? I guess I can go ahead and announce this. The number 2 biggest bookseller in the country is Target, believe it or not. Target stores. They have 1,900 stores. Amazon's number 1, but the next biggest company to sell books is Target, and they just ordered 6,000 copies of the Heart Code. Yeah. So that's gonna, I mean, I'm telling you,
that's
the
awesome.
transition is happening, and we're getting there. So if you want to help us, um, we give you fun bonuses, and yeah,
Yeah.
no one's bought the Fly with Brad challenge yet, but if you want to do that, we'll go fly, and you can bring. Let me think. You could bring one along with yourself. You can bring 3 more friends. Okay, if you want, and we'll go fly around for a couple hours.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, we'll go and segue into our questions, Dr. Brad.
Okay.
Yeah. So Marion wants to know, my understanding was that we should always clear trapped emotions.
Mhm.
I've recently heard that some people need to feel the emotions, and they told me that they didn't want to remove the trapped emotions. Would love to have your input on this.
Well, there are a lot of methods out there, that that say that to heal it, you have to feel it.
Hmm.
And the emotion code is not that way, because in the emotion code, what we're doing is we're just closing the loop on that emotional experience, and so that that emotional energy that is there, that is still trying to express in the body, can just disappear. You don't have to feel the emotion. You might feel echoes of that emotion as as you're processing the release over the next day or two. That can happen, but no, you don't really, in the emotion code, you don't need to feel it. It's That's one of the great things about it, is that you don't have to go back in and relive the
Hmm.
trauma, whatever it was. No, you don't have to do that with this method at all.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Maria asks, how does this work relate to beliefs that might have been formed as a result of the trapped emotion or heart wall? Like, do they immediately clear or rewire in the brain, or do you work with beliefs separately? Thank you, and I love
Yeah,
your work.
well, they often that's a great question. They often will rewire. I mean, when you a lot of the time the beliefs that we have are being fed and are being created by the emotional baggage that we have, right? I mean, let's say you get a trapped emotion of shame about something. Well, if that stays in there, just pulsating away, 20 years later, you might have developed, a few belief systems out of that, right?
Mm,
And clearing that power source
okay.
can get rid of those belief systems sometimes.
Mm,
Sometimes you need the belief code. And so we have 3 levels of certification. We have emotion code, which leads to body code, which leads to belief code. And in the belief code, we use the subconscious mind to identify these beliefs that exist as discrete energies in the mind body. And we can identify a whole belief tree. Sometimes people have inherited belief systems, which are
oh, yeah.
really interesting. Yeah. So, but yeah, the emotion code alone is really just incredibly powerful. But if you do need more, then there's more you can. We have more to offer. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I got so much mileage out of the emotion code book, Dr. Brad. I mean, so much a friend actually shared it with me. I'd never heard of it, and then I just plowed through that in one sitting, and I was like off to the races. Like I was
Yeah.
like, I didn't know you could muscle test that many different ways. Let me try them all. You know. And thankfully, you
Cool.
said that at the beginning you said the finger was getting sore, so you don't have to press that hard. Thank goodness you said that because mine was getting sore and done.
Yeah, my fingers hurt for 7 years. I was still having to
I was
figure
like,
it out.
okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Uh, Dr. Brad Glory says, have you seen a heart wall removal change the experience in a difficult or challenging workplace? Just curious.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And one of the interesting things that happens is when one person that is in a team, for example, or in a relationship, gets their heart wall removed, oftentimes the first thing that people notice is how other people treat them. Really
Mm,
interesting. Yeah, that's not unusual at all. So yeah, the answer to that one is absolutely. Mhm.
wow, that's fantastic. Holly, one of my certified practitioners and one of the mentors, she said, Dr. Brad, after doing this work for so long, what is your vision for all of humanity, like the collective? Do you feel like healing our heart walls one at a time is the best strategy, or do you have other ideas?
Well, I'll tell you what. There's a lot of healing that needs to take place. Um, we have to bring the ancestors along with us, right? Because this earth belongs to them just as much as it does to us, and they're still alive, even though they may not be physically alive. And then we have to bring the animals along too. In fact, my good friend Marie Holiday from Spain had an experience where she heard this male voice speaking to her that said, "You can't transform this world if you don't bring the animals along with you." Right. And so then she started teaching
Mm,
the animal world energy healing conferences in the UK as a result of that. So where we're going, well, I'll tell you where we're going. We're going to a place that has been prophesied and foreseen by holy men and sages in near death experiences and visions and dreams for thousands and thousands of years. We're living right at this inflection point in mankind's history where all of the old structures are shaking now, and that's why there's so much chaos and turmoil in the world. And yeah, it's going to be crazy. It's just like labor, right? I
mm.
mean, I haven't been through labor, but you know my wife and I we had seven together and adopted one. So I've seen my share of it. The earth is in labor, and it's trying to give birth to this new world. And this new world is going to be a world that where we're operating not from the brain in our heads, but from the brain that's in our hearts.
Mm,
And so I mean, imagine everybody in the world living from their heart. The world that is coming is a world that we've never experienced, that we can't quite wrap our heads around it, but we need to begin imagining it. It's a world in which there won't be any force, there won't be any coercion, right?
mm.
Uh, and so
Hallelujah.
it's not going to be a world where communism is the operating principle, because communism requires coercion and force, right? It's going
Yeah.
to be a world where people are giving and sharing from their own hearts. And that's the world that has been foreseen. And
Mm,
so I'm very excited about it because, we've had people, my wife and I have traveled all over the world. We've done seminars in many countries. We were just in Switzerland and Spain. Just in fact, I still have really bad jet lag. But anyway, we've had people come up to us in different countries and places where they've said, I had a near death experience, or I had a vision, or I had a dream, and I saw this work transform the world, right?
mm,
But the biggest piece of the puzzle is the heart, see? Because think about it, the majority of people in this world have a heart that is shut off, it's walled off behind all this emotional baggage. Now, when that wall is taken down, people often report things, and you'll read stories in the Hard Code book from people who say that for the first time in their life they could feel joy. For the first time in their life they could feel and know what it felt like to feel the emotion of love. Other people
mhm,
who say that for the first time in their whole life, when the wall was taken down, they could feel the love of God, the love of the Creator for them. Think how profound that is. you know, I believe that that love that emanates from the presence of God that fills the immensity of space is holding everything in orbit. All the planets is keeping our bodies alive from one moment to the next. And I believe that what that energy is the absolute pure energy of unconditional love from God for everything. And most of the time, we're just kind of oblivious to that. But when that wall is taken down, people begin to be able to receive that. They begin to feel that, which is just, to me, is just so profound.
Mm.
But yeah, anyway, so in a nutshell, I think the future is going to be so bright. We're all going to need to be wearing really thick, dark glasses because it's coming. It is coming.
Well, I love what you said about I'll reword it like the love of God is omnipresent, but it is us that have walled ourselves off from it. Because some
Yeah.
people pray and they're like, "Well, I don't get the answer, or I don't my life is not better," but it's not because God isn't there. It's like God is there all the time. It's like we've walled ourselves and we cannot hear the word of God or cannot feel the love from God. So
I think that's how it works.
yeah, it's interesting. Two more questions, guys. Okay, so Susan says, first of all, I love the emotion code. Use it often. It's life-changing. Thank you. I pre-ordered my book yesterday. Yoo-hoo! She wanted to know, when do I receive the link for the ebook? She did receive the email confirmation. This is more of a logistics question. I don't know whether you can answer that one.
Um, well, you should you should have received it right away. If not, you can just reply back, I think, to the email address that you when you receive the information that you did receive, and ask them, where that is. I would also, you probably got it, but it might be in your spam folder or something. That's the most typical thing.
Ah, okay, okay. Yeah, we'll check that. And sorry guys, I on the link I'll have to make sure we get the right hyperlink here. So I forgot to hyperlink the site where they can get the prizes. So I've done that in the chat now. Last question from Janine. I don't know if you want to unmute Janine so you can explain it, but Janine asks about first of all, thank you for your amazing work and tools. What do you recommend if someone's emotions or heart wall doesn't seem to be clearing after checking the reasons why they may not be clearing? And or either that or the reasons don't show up.
Well, so here's what can happen. Most of the time when you clear somebody's heart wall, it's gone. It's a good idea to recheck, every few months to see if maybe, especially if you go through something that's kind of difficult, because you might put up a new layer. Um,
Mm,
Usually, if a person rebuilds a heart wall, it's just going to be one emotion, maybe two. It's not a big deal, but it's a good idea to
right.
check periodically, just like maintenance, right? Um, if you've got someone that has a heart wall, and it just seems to keep going and going,
Mm,
and there's a lot of emotions there, what I like to do is I like to see what's really driving that. And in the same way that I was talking about how if you've got some powerful emotion that's in the body, it may it may develop belief systems attached to that. The same thing can happen with a heart wall. Let's say that you have some crazy emotion of fear. Maybe it's in your low back or neck or something, but it may be driving you to create a new heart wall. And
mm,
so, yeah, if I can't release somebody's heart wall in, two, maximum 3 sessions, then I check to see, all right, I'll just ask, is there something that's actually, you know, causing you to create um, or to recreate? The heart wall can get recreated. Is there something causing you to do that? And the subconscious mind will tell you that's usually what it is.
mm,
Sometimes, in some cases, you might have to do a belief code session or two, because sometimes people have, really gnarly, deep negative beliefs that they've developed about things, or sometimes those can even be inherited belief systems. But yeah, for the most part, most of the time, it's not a big deal. You just clear the heart wall and you're good. But once in a while, we do run across cases that are a little more difficult.
yeah, thank you for that. And just to end, I did want to share that over the last few years where there was some or a lot of coercion and fear and
Yeah.
you're going to kill grandma if you didn't do XYZ, things like that. Like
Right.
there seemed to be people with so-called trapped emotions that were collective emotions. Like I found a whole bunch.
Yeah.
Collective fear. It was the
Yes.
same fear.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, the collective emotions can happen. And of course, we would refer to those as shared trapped emotions. Same thing, right? And what's cool about that is, in the same way that if you release an inherited emotion, which is a kind of shared emotion, clear from one person, clears from everybody in the line,
Love
back up the
that.
line,
Yes.
down, both directions, kids, grandkids, great grandkids. Um, it's the same thing. So yeah, if people have a trapped emotion about something that's gone on, and maybe it's the whole town or whatever, if you clear it from one person, clears from everybody. If it's a
That
true
is
shared trapped
awesome.
emotion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, just by doing this work, there could be millions upon millions of people that had that same fear of annihilation or fear of dying or whatever cleared. So that's really, really good news. Dr. Brad, thank you so much for spending your time with us today and answering our questions. And, um, thank you for doing all the work and the great book, and say hello to your family for us.
Well, absolutely. Will do. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been really fun to be here, and thanks everybody for all the little hearts, that I've seen go by. Really fun.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we'll let you get some rest and some sleep since you just flew back. And thank you so much again. Much love. Until next time, my
Okay.
friend.
Much
Bye
love
bye.
to you. Thank you, Karen. Thanks everybody. Bye-bye.
Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you resonate with this message, please hit like and subscribe, and perhaps share it with someone who's like-minded, who you think might benefit. And in the meantime, I would love for you to connect with me in my private light medicine community. It's free to join, and it's for sensitive souls who desire to love and support each other. So I'll put the link below, as well as other exciting offerings for this week. Much love. Thanks for watching.